Hey there, welcome to Bible/Chat. Gus, hola.
Happy New Year.
Happy New Year. We'll talk about that next time. How are you?
Good. I'm doing really well.
Good. Good to see you.
Good to see you.
You seem more sedate. Did you have a good holiday?
I did have a good holiday.
Okay, good. I'm glad to hear that. You're not very talkative. Is that because we're going to address a topic that requires you to deal with? I'm just kidding. All right, so we're going to talk about something that Gus is in charge of at our church, and the question that I want to ask you is, why? Like the theological underpinnings for why?
Why am I in charge of the church?
No. Why have we put you in charge of anything? No. Yeah, because God uses sinners to do amazing things. Anyway.
Even a broken clock is right twice a day, right?
Actually true, yes. So why do we have, in our church, a Spanish fellowship?
Yeah.
What's the purpose of that? Could it divide the church? Does it divide the church? How are we thinking through those things? Let's talk about that.
I mean, we can talk about this for a long time, but we won't.
Yeah.
We won't. Because
we're going to make this short. It's a Bible/chat, not a Bible/discussion.
Exactly. So why do we have a Spanish fellowship? So we have a Spanish fellowship. Yeah. We started it in October, I think it was, or September. And there's about 12 of us that meet on every other Tuesday in our home. And we're going through a book called Trusting God.
Oh, yeah. Jerry Bridges, a great book on the sovereignty of God and suffering. But obviously in Spanish.
And pretty much the whole time we talk in Spanish. We share prayer requests. Very much like a book study you would do, right?
Yeah, normal book study,
So why do that and not do it in English? Why not do Trusting God?
Yeah, totally.
And have people... Now, one of the great things about our group is that everybody speaks English also. So they're already integrated into the church.
Gotcha.
But why do we have a Bible study? And I think a lot of it has to do with when you speak two languages, you would favor one over the other to speak of matters of the heart.
Yeah.
That's called a heart language, right? You grew up speaking English. Yeah. You were speaking Hindi when you were in India. But your heart language was English. It was a lot easier to speak English.
To express what's inside of you.
To express matters of the heart, right? From I love my kids to I love the Lord, and you knew all the verses in English. And I think the same is true in Spanish. A lot of these people that come speak Spanish. Yeah. That's their first language. And some of them, they speak English really, really well. Sure. And they want to be a part of a Spanish study to talk about matters of the heart, to talk about issues like the sovereignty of God and suffering. And that's what we've been doing. Yeah. And it's been really interesting because I think that some of these people, I can think of a couple of them, they come alive when they are talking in Spanish.
Totally, of course.
Why? Well, because I think that's their heart language. Yeah. That's how... they grew up speaking Spanish. They learned the Bible in Spanish, and now when they meet, they talk in Spanish, and they're able to talk about things of the heart. I remember not long ago talking to someone. They were talking about how it was hard for them to share verses that they knew in Spanish in English because it kind of required more time for them to even translate, to look at
process it.
Yeah, where some of these verses they learned when they were little.
Totally.
And they're very...
You just know them by heart.
Yeah, and they know them by heart. So we thought that would be the best thing to do. And we meet. Now, could it divide the church? Of course it can divide the church if something like that is not done well. But from the very get-go, the elders of our church have said, we don't want two churches. We don't want a Spanish church, and we don't want an English church. We want a church, a local church, and this is just a ministry of our church. Like it would be the youth ministry. The youth ministry doesn't divide the church. No. Neither does the Spanish ministry. So we meet, we talk in Spanish. Everything is done in Spanish. And we would have people that are not Spanish speakers. They come to our fellowship as well. And they're there. Sometimes they get translated. Sometimes they don't.
That's awkward.
Sometimes they don't.
You stick out like a sore thumb.
But it's actually a blessing to see that. And why do we do this? I think in the hopes of in the future, as the church starts growing, for Spanish speakers to come and to feel comfortable in a Bible study setting
and have a place where they can share their hearts.
Exactly.
Not as a separate church, but as a place where it's easier for them to communicate the issues.
Exactly, and I think that they can still be they're still part of the church. They're still part of the same fellowship. But there is an area of the church, if you want to call it that way, where they can actually share their hearts in their own language without fearing, how do I say this? How is this going to sound? Am I quoting this verse the right way?
Totally.
And
it's funny, I was talking to one of the guys who's in the group, and he was telling me, he said, I haven't known, he's been at the church for 10 years, but his first language was Spanish. And he said, it's funny, I haven't known how much I miss Spanish until I was able to fellowship in Spanish. And he said, because it's biblically sound fellowship in Spanish, he was like, it's like the weirdest thing. It's like a switch flipped inside of him, and he just came alive. And he's been loving it, you know, and sharing his heart to me, saying, this was so great. I can't believe, what I was missing, you know. So.
And it's been great. And we even had a Christmas party, and we had some great times talking about God's sovereignty and suffering. One of the things we've been doing is every week we start off sharing a testimony how the Lord has saved us, and it's been great to hear some of these stories on how God has saved people. And our hope is, and I share with the group, is that this could be an outreach to those that don't speak English well or want to speak Spanish to come and hear the word and either be involved in a good church or even hear the gospel for the first time.
Man, that's so encouraging. Well, it's super helpful. So one other side question to that is, we have a Spanish ministry. What would differentiate that from a surfing ministry or a mountain climbing ministry or whatever? Why would we not do those things, but we do have a Spanish ministry?
Well, because I think, you're with mountain climbing or surfing, you're dealing with a hobby.
Like an affinity. I like the ocean.
Affinity group, if you want to call it that. But in this case, you're dealing with a language group of people that are studying the Word of God in a language that is most likely their first language or their heart language. And we're able to do a Bible study that way. As we said before, there's nothing wrong with having a surfing ministry.
Necessarily,
right? But I think if you're going to spend your time doing something worthwhile, I would spend it in doing some kind of ethnic ministry. They could ministry to a group or a language. They're very prevalent, especially in California, right?
Totally, absolutely. Yeah, it is true. The Bible is the word, right? So it's the language. So language becomes a barrier to communication, and we want to try to remove those barriers. Where surfing, the Bible isn't necessarily tied to surfing per se. Those are just affinities, but language is the means by which truth is communicated. And so we want to do something that allows for truth to be communicated in the smoothest, easiest possible way. That's super encouraging, man. Thank you. We're super excited. Say something in Spanish for our listening audience.
Hola. No, adios.
Very good. Well, hope that was helpful for you. If you have any questions, you can always reach out to us at info@faithbibleoc.org. Thanks so much.